That was my start to buy in. I don't want to go home at night and still feel upset that I did something. I want to go home and be like, that went great. That conflict or that situation, I felt great on how I handled it, and I wasn't still there yet. So when I was introduced to this, I immediately bought in. I was like, I can do that. I understand that. That makes sense. This would help these players.
Welcome to the BetterCulture podcast, where we make the clear connection between better culture and better business. This podcast is for leaders who want to build stronger teams, drive thriving companies, and enjoy your leadership role along the way. Now here's your host, Brett Hogeveen, a leadership and culture aficionado, keynote speaker, and co-founder of BetterCulture.
Hello and welcome. I am so excited today to have a fantastic new guest on our podcast. We have Trish Siedlik with us today, who is the head volleyball coach for the Bellevue University Bruins. A little bit of an intro about Trish. She's been a 24-year collegiate head volleyball coach, was the 2024 national runner-up with her team in the national championship, and was named the 2024 NAIA Coach of the Year. So pretty cool to have such a successful leader and guest with us on the podcast. Trish, would you be willing to start by just telling just a little bit about your career trajectory, sort of how you ended up where you are, before we transition into a conversation about leadership and culture?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. Should I go back to high school? Just kidding.
You can start wherever you want to start.
I never wanted to coach.
Really?
Never wanted to. I wanted to make a lot of money. I worked corporate right out of college as a graphic designer for HDR. And things happened to where my alma mater opened up at College of St. Mary. And I applied and didn't get it right away. Things happened to where I was an assistant for a little bit and then jumped right into the head coaching position. And so from then on, I was there for 4 years until Bellevue called, and then I've been here for 19 years, entering my 20th season, like you said there, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It allows me to not only work with young adults, but also teach the sport that I love. Mm-hmm. Relationships is a huge part of sport as well as life, and it allows me to do all of it and also be around my family as much as possible. So now that having teenagers, I don't know if that's fun, but it allows me to do a lot of the things that I thought I wanted to do in college, but I thought I had to take a different direction into corporate. And being on the academic and sports side of life, people think that I have just this really cool job, and I would agree.
I think you have a really cool job. Yeah. As somebody who admires and enjoys athletics, to me, I think being able to be in that sort of competitive but also growth environment on a regular basis would be challenging and fulfilling.
I would agree with that statement, yes.
Yeah.
No, it's it definitely some peaks and valleys, some things that obviously in the sport world there's a result, and that result might not always dictate what you really did for the process, and that's hard on the ego. That's sometimes hard, and that's kind of where my mindset of culture changed because I had to bury the ego eventually.
Well, would you mind telling us, as much as you want to, I don't want you to go on a whole career timeline, but would you mind sharing a little bit of those peaks and valleys? I mean, what is that?
Yeah.
What are some of maybe what's an exciting time in your career, and what was maybe a tough time? And let's talk a little bit about how you navigate that.
Yeah, I mean, going backwards, the exciting time is obviously coming off of one of our most historical years ever in my career, the school's career, being national runner-up. But backing up to that, me personally had to make changes in order for maybe the program to get there. I know it takes a village for us to also get there, but had I not made the change, I don't know if we would have been here to where we're at. So,
which for those listening or watching, I'm really excited to dig into this, change as you describe it a little bit in a minute. So I don't want to jump too quickly into that, but I do want folks to know that we're going to have a really interesting conversation about what it looks like to maybe shift from a leadership or a team culture perspective.
Okay. Yeah. So as far as when I first started coaching, my ego was involved. Winning was at all costs. Winning was me being the tough guy, the dictator. And because I was still coming off of a career of playing and I had success myself, this isn't to blame the coaches that I had. It was just something that I did. I was confident. I was very aware of my own talents. And then when I coached, I expected that same thing. I expected them to think the same way. Mm-hmm. I did not have children yet of my own. And then that added to the mix, the stress, the fatigue, the coming in. And then I wouldn't say it was blame. It was almost like, why isn't this the way I taught you or whatever? So it wasn't a very good person.
It was causing some frustration for yourself and maybe some stress in and with the team. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. And maybe I didn't allow them to be. It was still, you had to do what I said.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the leadership world, anyone that's been in a leadership training capacity probably has a story that they tell, especially if they like sports, about a star player who tried to transition to becoming a coach and felt frustrated, right? So there are stories, like basketball, of Magic Johnson deciding to try to coach the Lakers, and that didn't go real well. What he could see and the way that he saw the floor, he just couldn't understand why his team wasn't able to do those types of things. And so I know you're not alone in those sort of star players that have transitioned to a coaching role and had to realize coaching is a different process than doing, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. And so with all that, I mean, I wasn't, we were still winning. It wasn't like we were losing. Mm-hmm. We had always had won. And so our programs were successful, transitioned to Bellevue then, and still were successful. In fact, my alma mater always lost to Bellevue. And so transitioning on over, we had success again. So here, my ego is working. Mm-hmm. And little things that I had learned, I'd go to a class or I'd go to something that, taught me how to do this, or, I'm like, okay, I never committed to it. I just thought, okay, we do this and it's a one class thing and it's done. It's going to solve itself.
Right.
And so I was not in the buy-in stage yet. Okay. Fast forward to now, we're getting into a different era of a player or a student athlete. Things are getting a little bit more to where I wouldn't say that they had a voice, but they had a voice. Mm-hmm. And there was things that I wasn't proud of, and there was some wake up calls on my end to where I had hurt some folks and I had upset them, and going back to my administration, work some things out. That first time of realizing that I need to maybe make a change in my own, what I would call passion. Mm-hmm. I did. I made changes, but it didn't last. Okay. But I had another good group. I had another good group of players, and talented again.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say it happened again. It was another route of I thought I was going down. I thought I was doing all these good things. I thought I was. And so then communication, I think, changed. So I needed to be more clear with my communication. So it was just another layer of leadership. And so going back to needing to make a change, I had some folks say, Trish, I think let's go down this other path of maybe, you're a good coach. We like what you're doing. Let's try this. So then I was introduced to this BetterCulture program.
Really? So I want to dive into that. Would you say, just so I can have as clear in my mind as possible, would you say you were getting feedback on sort of player experience or things like that that were increasingly either hitting home or sort of registering with you as something that really needed to be addressed or to be considered more. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I of course want people to have a good experience, and you can't keep 20 females happy, 18 to 22-year-old females. So I knew I was my authentic self. I was still doing the things that I thought I'm on a good path, but you can't keep everyone happy. And I would say still in hindsight, I don't know how much I would have still changed, but I know I could have done it better. Yeah. And so that was my start to buy in. I don't want to go home at night and still feel upset that I did something. I want to go home and be like, that went great. Mm-hmm. That conflict or that situation, I felt great on how I handled it. And I wasn't still there yet. Mm-hmm. So when I was introduced to this, I immediately bought in. I was like, I can do that. I understand that. That makes sense. This would help these players.
Yeah. So let me try to frame this up. And then I'd love to hear the story of this transition that you're continuing to navigate through, both as a coach and a leader and with your team. It sounds to me as if I think it would be fair to say you were having success. The teams were performing, but you had identified that there was still an opportunity personally for you as well as for the team for growth, to improve or to hit a next level or to avoid some maybe missteps that were happening that were causing dysfunction or drama or hard feelings or whatever those things might be. Is that somewhat accurate there?
Agreed. My focus was still on the result. We were successful on the scoreboard. Behind the scenes, we could be so much better.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way to put it. Love it. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about, and I'll share, because you've said this a couple times, and I'll share that you actually used one of our BetterCulture programs and products called our 20 Tenets of Culture that was really designed for the corporate world, for the business world. And we have seen increasing interest from coaches and saying, look, this is team stuff. This is team dynamics, whether it's in a business or whether it's in a sports team. And so tell me a little bit about sort of how this concept of these 20 really attitudes and behaviors that we know are research-backed and linked to high-performing teams, to healthy cultures, how that was introduced to you and sort of what your initial aha moment was there.
So I have a mentor, and she is absolutely wonderful, and she introduced me to this, and because she used it as well. And so we went over it over the course of a few weeks, dove into specifics, whether it was the team or even in my own job or my own life even. And like I said, I bought in, I used it, I would implement it in conversations, and the results were coming like, I go back to her and be like, oh my gosh, that was so easy.
Okay.
And go ahead.
Well, let's get specific, right? So, okay. So if you're listening, you're like, okay, what are these 20 tenets, right? So I have a listing of some of these behaviors that we come up with, and there's 20 of them, but it's things like learn to want to be more coachable, to ask for feedback and advice, to be more helpful, to assume positive intent, to know how to have friendly disagreement, to let sort of ideas collide openly while people remain collaborative and trusting, and they don't resent when people disagree, et cetera, and on and on. We have 20 of these. So can you give us a concrete example of how did you take one or two or a bunch? I know in our pre-interview you said now you've got 6 or 7 or 8 of these that you're actively using and discussing with your team. Would you get specific with us and share specifically what is it, one of these tenets that you've used, and how have you used it?
Positive intent resonates right off the bat. And that was one where, that question in your mind comes up with a player that asks you something or even says, you said this or what, immediately your alarm goes off. Whoa.
Yeah.
What are you talking to me?
Right.
Assume positive intent.
Yes.
They want to learn. Yeah. They're just asking a question. They meant no harm by it. In a gym, you're yelling. It's loud, it's intense. My positive intent could be back to you as a player. I'm just trying to get over the noise in here
right.
to say something. please don't think my shouting is shouting at
Right,
you.
exactly. Yeah.
But that could be intense for them. It could be overwhelming for them. Positive intent with that. And
if you can get the players on your team to understand that at first, can you give me the benefit of the doubt? Assume that what I'm yelling at you across the gym is intended for your benefit. I'm not mad. I'm trying to make sure you hear me, right? I'm trying to help you be successful.
Yes.
And vice versa, right?
Vice versa for sure. Yeah. The other one we learned, and we say shout outs, but brag them up. Female empowerment is so important. Which could lead to the no gossip, but to just tell someone in detail, we say their name, say what they did in detail, not just, hey, you did good today, but say in detail exactly what they did and bring that, because now they have taken that compliment and thought, wow, you really paid attention to me and you gave me that time. So we not only say brag them up, but we say shout outs, and we do those periodically throughout practice. Doesn't have to, we did them at the end. Sometimes we're tired and we want to just go. So we do it at the water cooler. So we did the toast. Let's do a toast. And
Love it.
We try to say, keep it cool with the water, you guys, toast college kids,
Yeah,
whatever.
It's fun. And does the players enjoy that?
Yes.
They've have they gotten better at it over time?
They have gotten better. They do it on their own. I don't have to tell them anymore. We do little things, maybe a little note on their locker board or whatever that they've done in the past. Now it's just verbal. I'm like, it's real easy. If you forgot, send them a text. But it really is important to say it verbally.
How often are you using these terms? Assume positive intent, no gossip. You've mentioned, brag them up, etc. How often are you using this language with your players, and how are you doing that?
The bravery to speak is another one that it's I'm not sure where that ties in, but we say bravery to speak too, but restraint. Every day. We did end of year interviews with the kids at the end, or the young ladies, sorry. And I probably used 4 in every interview.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you were first starting to introduce this to your team, how did that go? Was it easy? How did you first share this? Did you say, hey, I've been thinking, or did you say, hey, I found this resource, or, how did you first introduce this to your players?
Well, I kind of took it and I redeveloped a little bit into volleyball terms, because this was the business side of things for me. Yeah. And I made them into little after-school special classes. Okay. Where we would either do improv acting, which was very bad acting. I am loving this.
Very
bad acting. My assistant coach is also a broadcast major, so he really got into it. So he would play the bad kid, and they had to kind of, bravery to speak or use restraint and stuff like that. We also did activities whether we used examples, what are we great at? And then they would give examples. We will be revisiting that again next week, because we can focus on the negative, on what we need to get better. But can we focus on positive, what we're great at, and then just kind of maybe get that to meet up? Yeah. So the rest of that, I don't know, you're gonna have to redirect me again.
Can I do a shout out for you before I redirect you? Is, when you're doing culture work or leadership development work in any setting, but a business setting, one of the biggest barriers is going from teaching an idea to inspiring an action, right? So it's the same thing with sort of core values, right? Any business, they have, most organizations, most teams, they have sort of core values, right? And you're doing pretty well usually if people can even remember what they are, right? But what you often just don't see is people really taking those and putting them into action in meaningful ways that really changes the regular everyday experience and culture that's happening on a team, right? And so my shout out for you is the examples that you're giving right from the get-go of hey, I'm not just gonna stand in front of the room and give a talk. I'm gonna ask you guys to role play this, to role model this, to actually put this into motion. And I know people don't like that from personal experience. When you say, hey, we're gonna role play something, everybody kind of slouches in their chairs and says, no thanks, right? But when we encourage it and we put it into live action, whether that's actually in practice or at the water cooler or even at a pre-practice meeting or wherever you were doing those things, that's where growth happens, is when we say, no, we need to live these things and celebrate when we live these things and praise one another. And then the momentum kind of builds. Was that the experience you had?
100%. Yeah. At first couple, I'm like, this is going to be hard. Or my assistants and I were like, they're just not going to participate, or, it was worry. By the end, and again, we didn't know what the future was holding, because this was implemented in 2023. 2024, we had the season of a lifetime. But in 2023, by the end, we were sharing core memories. Remember when so-and-so did that skit, and so it brought back. So that was, whether they learned it or not, they remembered it, and that was the goal.
Yeah. And you're strengthening relationships and building trust and some of that psychological safety, maybe even, and really building what is a healthy team, right? Fair to say?
Fair to say. And yeah, we are sensitive when we use examples, because some of these examples that we have used, whether restraint, all aboard, all those things, we don't want to dig up anything that was resolved already. So we were careful with that, where we went back to them and said, okay, elephant in the room, we all know this happened. Can we go with that? How was that conversation with that player? And so we've talked about those things. Has
having this language and having addressed these things proactively, has it made it easier to have those tough conversations, or to know which ones to avoid?
I think they're more accepting.
Yeah.
You're right, Coach. I should have used bravery to speak. In that moment, I did use restraint, but it's still there. So now what do? Okay, let's go revisit our points. And then it's just like right there. We don't have to talk about it, or like, well, what if this happens? No, that's right here. Let's just go back to it.
Yeah. And there's a big benefit in any team or organization of establishing some language that helps you shortcut conversations, right? Sometimes people can't find the right words to express what they're feeling or what's going on. And when you have language like this that just says, yeah, I used restraint, but it's still there. Great. We know what's happening, right? That doesn't mean it's solved, but at least we kind of know where we are, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I find with any team that I work with, is if you can establish a set of common language, it makes communication so much clearer and more efficient.
Yeah, agreed on all of that. Yeah, it's still a maturity stage of their lives. And if we can help with this, I know we only have them for 4 years, if not less. So if they can use this on the rest of their lives, it's such a gift.
Yeah. So I want to go out on a limb here. We didn't talk about this ahead of time, but one of the things we really believe deeply in when it comes to leadership skills is we talk a lot about leadership is coaching or parenting, even in the business world. Okay. I talk to leaders and aspiring leaders all the time, and I say, look, what does a great coach do? And we've covered some of that today. What does a great parent do for their kids? How can we as leaders show up with that mindset of a great coach or a great parent? And I want to kind of close maybe with what I think I just heard you say, which is I think when we're acting really in our highest level of leadership, not only are we accomplishing the mission, which might be winning games, or if you're in business, it's meeting your quarterly objectives or deliverables. But what really should be happening at the same time is you're trying to make an investment in your team's success, not just at work or in sports, but in life, right? And when we built these 20 tenets, nothing made this list that we couldn't find really compelling research that said, if people learn these skills, they're life skills. They are things that will help them professionally, personally. They'll help their mental health. They'll help them be happy and successful people. Would you say that's one of the bigger takeaways that you have gotten from this program, is of really feeling like you have a tool set, in those 4 years that you have these young ladies with you, to send them off to be even more successful in life?
Oh yeah. The positive intent, the team has said that one just goes right to my head first.
Good.
And bravo. I think that a lot of it, even with my own child, 14-year-old, a lot of middle school drama.
Yeah.
What was the positive intent? And her answer always is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think when we get to that next stage, at least with the young ladies that we have, they see a little bit more in it. They see that they can use restraint and be like, it'll blow off in a couple of weeks or whatever. I think I can handle that, manage that. And then and then being on board or all board with the rest of it, of whether what we say for who's the starting lineup, whether what your boss says in the future, you're great, you're awesome, but this one's going to get the promotion.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you be on board? This one's great. You did everything. You did all your workouts. You're not a starter, though.
Yeah.
So those are things that we kind of walk through, and it could go on to the next level of their careers.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great place to sort of finish our conversation. Congratulations to, 20 plus years into a career. Some people would really think, I kind of know it all at this point, been there, done that, et cetera. And so kudos to you to just being open to new ideas and new resources and really embracing them and putting them into action. It's our mission at BetterCulture to make the whole world a better place to work. I want to expand that to, now we want sports teams to be better teams to be a part of, right? And I think you're making a huge contribution to that, Trish. So thanks a bunch.
Thank you so much. This is, again, it was a gift to me. I hope, at the high school level even, so before they get to college and know this, it would be an amazing gift. But if other teams could hop on board with what I've learned, what an amazing gift. What
would be final advice? Any advice to coaches out there that are listening? If you had one final piece of advice that you'd like to share, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, we spend lots of money. There's lots of clinics out there. There's lots of, learn this drill, or I know there's a positive mindset and sports psychologists and all that stuff. They are all great tools. This one resonates a lot with me. And for as much, I could write a book on all my experiences. This one stuck. This one is the glue. Yeah.
If somebody wanted to reach out to you to connect, to learn about your experience, to ask you a question, to, whatever that might be, A, is that okay? And B, how would you like them to reach out to you?
I would love it. My email is on our website, on the university's website. And I believe on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn and all the social medias. And then there's a coupon that I'm able to give out if anyone would like that as well.
Very cool. Well, we'll put information on that in our show notes. And if people connect with you, Trish has been a great ambassador, not just for Bellevue University and for women's volleyball, but for this Better Culture mission. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much.
Want to take the next step to building a stronger culture? We're offering a free 15-minute Better Culture strategy call directly with me. We'll take the time to help you identify real opportunities to make your workplace better. No sales pitch, just real advice to help you lead better. Grab your time right now at betterculture.com/free call. Let's make something even better together.